Introducing the app that curates the perfect Brisbane experience for you. Pack your bags, log in through your social account, and let us take care of the rest. Because summer in Brisbane knows you better than you know yourself. We know what you will love, and we provide discounted places to stay, to drink, to eat, to play, and all the information you need is in your hot little hand. No two experiences are the same. Travelling as a couple? No worries. We'll combine both your personalities into one amazing visit to Brisbane. Tourism Queensland wishes you a very you time this summer.
Do brands have too much influence over our day-to-day lives? In 2024, ideas such as this one are not exactly revolutionary. But with apps like Summer in Brisbane becoming a normal part of our daily lives, it's becoming more apparent just how much social media platforms, communication agencies, and of course brands influence not just our consumptions, but our construction of self and consequently, our perception of the world. It's hard to remember a time when news was considered unbiased and not just another brand like Coca-Cola or Apple. It's hard to remember when our social media platforms were not combined together in one easy-to-read newsfeed. And it's even more difficult to remember that we used to choose what appeared in our newsfeed, instead of leaving it to communication professionals to decide which product works best for our personalities that they understood through our social media footprint, or fingerprint. One could argue that we're currently living in Sohail in Iniatola's evolution and progress image of the future. More technology, man as the centre of the world, and a belief in rationality. Summer in Brisbane shows the importance that our society places on the self, seeing ourselves as the centre of a cultural world that fits in around us. A belief in rationality is evident in how this app appears to make life easier for Brisbane visitors. To show you just how technology and social media has evolved over the years, it's always useful to put it against the story of a person. 30-year-old Megan Boyle, who coincidentally was also part of the Summer in Brisbane ad, has agreed to come on board with us to show us little parts of her life for the last 22 years, as documented by her Facebook. Let's go back to 2002. Meg was using a flip phone to call her first boyfriend, and this Apple ad shows you just where technology was at the time. Could we perceive the impacts of branding on the future? Well, maybe not us, but Douglas Holt surely could. Holt's theory of the post-postmodern condition, brands as citizen artists, predicted people will continue to treat brands as cultural resources, as one of the many original source materials that may be useful in their self-construction projects. These consumers will not have the time or the energy to follow the postmodern directive to be consumer artists. So instead, they will rely upon cultural specialists to do most of the heavy lifting in creating new cultural materials. Interesting prediction, Holt. I wonder if you realised that the idea of brand would soon encompass a lot more than just computer companies or soft drinks. The organisations we receive our news from would soon be considered brands with their own agenda themselves. In fact, this would happen a lot sooner than we'd think. 6 years later, in 2008, Fairfax launched The Vine, a partnership between journalism that came through Fairfax and branded content that came from Life Lounge, a pop culture site for a then teenage and young Gen Y market. 2008 was the year that the first generation Apple iPhone had just been released and was surpassing BlackBerry sales, and social media was on the fast incline. It was also the year that Meg took the plunge from MySpace to Facebook. 3 years later, in 2011, Eli Pariser spoke about filter bubbles.
If I search for something and you search for something, even right now at the very same time, we may get very different search results. Your filter bubble is kind of your own personal, unique universe of information that you live in online. And what's in your filter bubble depends on who you are, and it depends on what you do.
In 2012, Facebook began targeting ads. So for example, if your relationship status was single, expect to see dating sites. in 2020, the first agency of its kind, Brooklyn firm Social No, started working with social media platforms, news sources, and brands to create filter bubbles based on what they already knew about an individual through their social media profile. Through a process of trial and error, they began combining refining targeted marketing techniques to market brands to be associated with other brands, not through something so obvious as drawing parallels between something like someone's single status and dating sites. Instead, it played on ethnographical research into subcultures. How well do social networks really know us? Is your idea of yourself constructed purely on the brands that you associate with or the websites you read? Would your summer in Brisbane really be a very you summer? You decide.